The recipe will be in the more box, which is your description. You have to let your dough, once it's made, sit for 3 hours in the fridge, or you can let it set overnight. And when I roll out the cookies, I use a mixture of powdered sugar and flour, and I put it on the cutting board, because sometimes when you have all flour, it kind of tastes pasty. So you're going to want to flour or sugar up your rolling pin and the surface and roll it out to a 1/4 inch thick, which I use a square chopstick as a measure guide, and it is a 1/4 inch thick. Or unless you have this scraper. This is an old one from Graham Kerr. He used to have a cooking show back in the 70s, and they have measurements on it. So yes, it is a 1/4 inch thick. Then you take your cookie cutter. Well, that one's not going to be for the big one. And then you press down hard. This dough has been set out for 15 minutes out of the refrigerator. And here's the little guy, and you put him on a Silpat baking sheet. If you don't have a Silpat yet, or a baking mat, which you can get anywhere, kitchen stores, big box stores, online, you can use wax paper. It'll be fine. Parchment paper, that'll be fine. And this is considered a medium guy, so he's going to go in the oven. And I always do a sample bake for one to see how many actual minutes, even though the recipe might say 6 to 8 for small, 8 to 10 for medium, 10 to 12 or 13 for large. It depends on how thin you make them. Another thing about this dough scraper, besides measuring your dough thickness, you can scrape underneath to get the cookie off the board. So I re-rolled the scraps into a little ball or disc. I don't reflour this each and every time. It makes the dough dry out. And if you overwork the dough, especially with eggs in the dough, it will dry out and affect the texture. So never overwork the dough. You know, just until it's mixed well. Because each time you're going to have these scraps, you're going to be tempted to flour them, but don't until you really need to. You'll know when your dough is getting too soft, when the arms and the legs break off too easily, and they're not coming off the scraper too well. That's when you put the dough back into the refrigerator. Now for medium, you might get 6 gingerbread men on a cookie sheet, and for small, you'll get 8. So depending again on how thin you roll these out, you really have to watch the cookies. You can't go down and sit down and have a cup of tea. You just can't. Unless you know that you've rolled this out a 1/4 inch, and then go by the time. But if they're not all uniform, it's going to be all messed up. So try to do the same height, 1/4 inch, or even a 1/2 inch. That'll affect your timing. So if you get too much flour and sugar on the dough, just brush it off, because as I said before, the flour can dry it out and toughen up the dough, as well as over mixing the dough. This is my test cookie. It was exactly 12 minutes. So depending on your oven, maybe 11 minutes for a 1/4 inch thick, but do let the cookies cool. Meanwhile, you can buy store-bought icing and put it in a tube, and you can write on the gingerbread cookies. You can make your own and put this icing in a pastry bag, or you can use a paintbrush. Do not use a Q-tip, I tell you, because if you don't have a paintbrush, the cotton will stick to the cookie. So, everybody does these weird things in the house sometimes. You're going to get a tablespoon of lemon juice or orange juice, or half and half. This is fresh lemon juice, into 2 cups of powdered sugar. Now I know that's not enough. I don't know why a recipe would say 1 to 2 tablespoons, but and you do want to strain your juice for seeds. If you don't have lemon juice, you could use milk, or, as they said, half and half. So as you can see, using a spoon to try to cream this sugar and lemon juice, 2 tablespoons is not enough. 2 tablespoons equals 1 lemon. So I'm going to go ahead and put another tablespoon in. This is what the icing looks like with 3 tablespoons. It's a very thick frosting. That's okay for some things. I think I'm going to add another tablespoon of lemon juice. So I have a total of 2 lemons squeezed into 2 cups of powdered sugar. So my pastry bag has its nozzle, just plain little round one. You can get these kits with different tips and a comb to comb frosting on a cake. You have a scraper to scrape the icing out of the bowl. You can get these little tools to make designs. And then they give you a brush to clean the little nozzles. Now I have a metal tip kind and a plastic kind. The plastic ones, these came from the Dollar Tree with the plastic. I wouldn't do it too much. So I bought nice silicone bags. And they're very affordable. You get the rings and they tell you how to assemble it. It's very explanatory when you look at it. You put the nozzle down into the bag, put the tip on, put the ring on. The hardest part about this is filling the bag. So you can put it down in a cup and then spoon it in there. This is a nice consistency. I'm leaving it white. You can put a couple of drops of food coloring in it. So the icing is poured into the bag. I put this clip here just so I can do it one hand, and then you're going to squeeze it like that and twist it. Now if it's too runny, put it in the refrigerator until the cookies are absolutely cool. When you're doing many batches, as I said, the dough gets a little warm, put it back in the refrigerator. This was in the fridge, now it's kind of settling down again. Make sure your cookie, whatever you're making, is on a cold cookie sheet. Because if you put these cookies on a hot sheet that just came out of the oven, these little guys are going to melt and swelter like Thailand heat. So this guy's head broke off. He must have knew King Henry VIII. You can glue them. You can glue them with the icing if you wanted to, And that is fine when you're making gingerbread houses. So this icing is a little bit hot. I mean, it's warm. So then you would just, use your pastry bag. Here's his eyes. You can tell it's too runny. So you got to put this back in the fridge, this icing. And that's where these tools come in handy. If you make it dripsy, take it off with the little blade. Oh. Well, he's going to be a sample one anyway. But yeah, put this icing back in the fridge. Let it get a little stiff. And that's your icing. And it will harden. So the directions are going to be in the More box. This is the color you want the cookies to be. Golden. This guy was a little too dark on the edges. Of course, I was videoing and I didn't pay attention. These guys are a little too dark. So if you have really dark cookies, keep an eye on them. Give those for snacks. But for serving your guests, make sure they're this color. Make sure the icing is set up in the fridge. Don't overwork the dough. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.